does make a difference, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, the first question I want to ask this morning is, what does Jesus in the book of Luke have against families? A few weeks ago, we heard that households would be divided. Father against son and son against father. Mother against daughter and daughter against mother. Mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Now today we read, whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Let's compare Luke's version to Matthew's version. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. A little gentler maybe, but gentle is not what we give today. You may be offended because you love your family deeply, or if your family is or was abusive, you may not be offended at all. Americans are not really known for having several generations in a family live together, and for the honoring of elderly relatives that we find in some other cultures. Still, thoughts of family and providing for them, children, parents, brothers and sisters in difficult situations, those things weigh on most of us. We wonder if our parents are becoming less able to care for themselves. We wonder how our children are doing on their own. We extend ourselves to get children to their school games or to music lessons. When our family members lose homes or jobs or close friends, we worry about them. And we know that honor your father and mother is one of the 10 Commandments. On the other hand, we may also have known people who took this passage literally and treated their family with disdain or abuse, not valuing the gift and the blessing that family is created to be. I can imagine stern fathers of ages past who rationalized an inability to love by leaning heavily on this passage. So, what can Jesus possibly mean here? One possibility is that Jesus might have intended to thin out the large crowds that we are told were traveling with him. He needed to say something that would shock and force people to consider the radical nature of his statement, one that would soon leave him surrounded not by large crowds, but by just a few who would stand with him until almost the end. Some theologians also explain that the Greek word miseo, which means to hate, is at the root of words like misogyny, was used in both the Old and New Testaments to mean a lesser preference rather than true hatred. That is, when we're told that God said, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated, it doesn't mean that God actually hated Esau, but that it was a secondary form of love. God just didn't love Esau quite as much as Jacob. But that may not make us feel any more comfortable, even if it's closer to Matthew's version. If Jesus is saying, do not prefer your family members and even your life to me, or you cannot be my disciple, it's still hard to hear. Many of us have a strong attachment to our family members and have loved them with a sacrificial love from the time we first knew them. We extend ourselves, providing all that we can. A week ago, Perry and I said goodbye to Lyndon and walked away. Maybe you've done the same thing, or placed an elderly parent in assisted living far from your home. It's tough. But there are things about families that we need to consider. We're often close, and sometimes that means arguing or smothering love. We lean on each other for protection against the wide world, which may mean taking fewer risks. We assume the same faith as our parents because it is what is expected, without learning about and testing our beliefs for ourselves. I've spoken before about being a fan of the TV show Supernatural. And I have to admit, what I most appreciate about that show is not when the Winchester brothers sacrifice for each other, which they do frequently. It's when each allows the other to sacrifice himself for the sake of the world. To give all that he has to give, not knowing if death will be the result, but acting in trust, because the end is finally unknowable. Family is a gift from God, but we're also each called to act as individuals in a larger community. And that may be what Jesus is saying here. If we're constrained by domestic concerns, our world is only as large as our immediate family. It may be helpful, as we say in our mission statement, to think of St. Francis as a community and not as a family. Church shouldn't equal family, just as the good news of the gospel isn't limited to those we already know and care about. As Nathan Frambach says in his book, Emerging Ministry, Being Church Today, it is my contention that God intends for a Christian community to be more, to be bigger than family. Congregations are public outposts for mission. If the gospel is the essential core of church, and the local congregation is central to the life of the church, I'm suggesting that the congregation is necessarily public in its nature. I believe that God intends for the people of God, for all Christian communities, to be public, missional, and evangelical, rather than private and familial. We don't baptize babies privately anymore. They are baptized into a particular community. We also send the Eucharist with our Eucharistic visitors, who are technically part of our community, to people who are technically part of our community. Of course, the visitors are, but the people out there are as well, although there are reasons that they can't be here with us. And speaking of counting the cost of discipleship and estimating the cost of construction, we are well aware of those costs. Not only financially, but also what it means in terms of adapting to change. Each time we arrive, I think, this is the most disrupted it can be, and I'm always wrong. But an ingrown family would not take on the type of accessibility construction we have taken on. By doing what we're doing, we're inviting others to come and lend their voices and experiences to our community. As Jesus has adopted us into a new community, a community of disciples, his family of preference because it includes everyone, we are asked to do the same. I've been blessed to be your pastor for nearly 3 years, and in that time, I've seen the discipleship that is growing in this place. For example, some of you initially found it difficult to serve on the mission committee in key positions, or to remain, and you have blessed God's ministry in this place by doing so. Some of you have recently found a call to become more involved in the community or in the larger church, through committees and as delegates. Some of you have taken on particular ministries of serving others, such as becoming Eucharistic visitors, who might be called upon to visit new people. Some of you have heard the call to serve our young people through the program of Godly Flow. Some of you have come to this place and these people from other congregations because you felt called to be here and are offering love and support as you are able. Some of you are feeling called to offer gifts in reading or landscaping. Some of you have started confirmation, attended camp, and will be trained to serve as acolytes. Some of you have faced personal or family crises. Yet this community remains an important part of your ministry in the world. And our 2 high school graduates, one of whom is already in a new community, are using this place as a springboard into a much broader pool, at least for a time. Nancy Rockwell writes a Christian blog on the internet. Her words about this text resonate deeply with me. To learn, to encounter, to unravel mystery, to belong to God alone, all these require leaving, really leaving, in order to be open to the unexpected and unknown presence of God, who will be found not according to the rules, and not by the book, and not in the customary places, and not without fear, passion, deep prayer, and reflection on the strangers you have found each day, and the homelessness you have known. We leave family, the familiar, the safe, for the blessings of sacrificial discipleship and community. May it continue to be so.